In this video, we'll be focusing on the Overtone series for the trombone, and we'll be covering all of the possible notes for each position of the trombone, for each slide position of the trombone, up to the 10th partial of the Overtone series. Now, this can seem complicated and confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, it really is quite simple. And for us in this class, it will be an act of just pretty much strict memorization. But in the actual realities of teaching, I would never teach this specifically to, certainly not a beginner student. I've never been taught this specifically by a teacher. Perhaps maybe some advanced high school student might be interested in going through this so that they are familiar with the possibilities of the trombone for each position and get an understanding of the Overtone series. So maybe a advanced high school student thinking about going into college, or somebody who happens to just be seem interested in this kind of thing and having more knowledge. So hopefully you have a little bit of knowledge about the Overtone series. Very basically, any length of tube can create a sound through vibrations. Vibrations input, in this case, our embouchure is creating those vibrations. Our buzz, the buzz is the vibration that creates the pitch. And each tube, depending on the length, has a fundamental pitch, a pitch that it tends to buzz at. Now the trombone, the length of the trombone tube, if you were to unwrap it all, would be a B flat. Even with it all wrapped around like that, that creates the pitch of a B flat. So the trombone is a B flat instrument because it's the fundamental pitch. Pitch in first position is B flat. However, it is a non-transposing instrument, so it reads its music in the key of C. It doesn't. The trumpet is also pitched in B flat, but it is a transposing instrument. When you are reading trumpet music, a B flat, open valve, no valves pushed down, is written as a C. But the trombone does not. The trombone is written in concert pitch as a B flat. So the fundamental, which means the lowest pitch, and the pitch that the tubing for the trombone is based on is B flat. And the lowest B flat that we can get on the trombone is what we call the pedal B flat. And that will be a couple of ledger lines down. See if I can get a couple of acceptable ledger lines here. So that, 2 ledger lines down on the space, is the pedal B flat in bass clef. So that is the lowest note that I can get in first position. I'll put the positions up here in red. So this column right here will be all the possible notes that we can get in first position up to the 10th partial. Which will be plenty high enough for any high school student, or even beginning college students, as we'll see when we get up there. Okay, so the next note up from that we can get in first position is the standard low B flat we've started with. So right there. So we have B flat. The next note is the low B flat. The next note we can get in first position through tightening the embouchure a bit is a F. And we've experienced that. We've done a lot of lip slurs from B flat to F and so forth. No tongue. It's just the embouchure buzzing, making a faster frequency wave to create the higher pitch in that B flat based length of tubing. So the next pitch up we can get is in first position is the tuning B flat. Next one up, if we buzz higher, push more air, will be the D. Next note up will be the F. So notice we have a major triad here, B flat, D, F. The next note we can get in first position is A flat. And I'm going to put a special mark here, little asterisk, because there's something special about those notes that we'll get to in a bit. So we have the first partial there, the fundamental. Second partial is there, the next B flat. This is the third partial, the F. Fourth partial is the B flat. Fifth partial is the D. Sixth partial is the F. Seventh partial is the A flat. For the next note we can get in first position is high B flat. You notice as we go, we started off pretty wide and the notes are gradually getting closer and closer together. So that's the overtone series. That happens as we increase the frequency, as we get higher in pitch from that fundamental, the closer the intervals get. So that's the eighth partial right there. That B flat is the eighth partial. Next note up will be the C, right adjacent to that. And I'm writing these off to the side here just for clarity, because if I were to stack them one on top of the other here, they'd be running into each other. So that's the ninth partial. C is the ninth partial. And then finally, I'll keep it over here. Well, actually, I guess I can extend this, so this will just be a very long ledger line. I'm just making it long for visual reasons, so we can see hopefully a bit better. And our final partial that we'll be covering in this class is the 10th, and so that's that high D right here. So it can be tricky to read in bass clef, but that's essentially it. So B flat, F, B flat, D, F, B flat, F, A flat, B flat, C, and D. So if we think of the intervals here, so we have an octave. It's the first interval that we can play in first position, from the very lowest note to the next note up, and then that goes to a perfect fifth here, and then a perfect fourth from F to B flat. So you see the intervals are getting smaller. B flat to D, the major third there, is the next interval up. D to F, a minor third, there is the next one up, and F to A flat, also a minor third, but remember there's an asterisk here, so we're going to talk about that in just a second. Or actually, let's talk about it right now. So these intervals are getting smaller. So F to A flat is a minor third in our equal tempered system. However, since the interval is this was an actual minor third, so this is actually naturally a bit smaller than a minor third. So the A flat in first position is flat to our tuning system. And since it's in first position, this A flat in the overtone series, and it's flat, we can't pull, it's naturally flat, we can't pull the slide in any closer since it's already in all the way. So trombones will almost never play an A flat, this A flat here, in first position, unless it's perhaps some really fast thing that nobody will ever hear the pitch. But even then, I think you always want to go to third position for that high A flat. And then we have the B flat here, that's fine, that's a major second. And then we have C here, B flat to C, and then C to D. So we get up to some seconds, and there's minor adjustments for intonation that you have to make with these notes, but these notes are able to be played. This is actually going to be a flat first position. To make it in tune, you have to bring the slide out a little bit for that high C, and the D is generally right about first position, maybe slightly lower, depending on your instrument and things like that. So the A flat is the only one that we really will never play in first position, even though it's theoretically possible. So that's the sequence for first position. Those are all the possible notes that we can play in first position up to that 10th partial, up to that high D here. So you can think the way you can memorize this is through solfege, and intervals. So we have do, do, so, do, mi, so, te, do, re, and mi. All right. Think about the intervals: octave, fifth, fourth, major third, minor. You can look at this all together as one: B flat, D, F, A flat. That's a dominant seventh chord, right? The B flat dominant 7 up here, and then the octave B flat up there, and do, re, mi. So B flat, C, D. So there's a number of ways that you can kind of break this down to remember it. Whichever way works best for you is fine, as long as you understand it. And okay, so let's move on to second position, and you're gonna immediately kind of notice a pattern here. Once you know the pattern, you kind of know the system, how it works for first position. For the rest of them, all you basically have to do is transpose it down a half step, and then another half step, and then another half step. It's going to look very similar, except which notes are actually being played. So we can do this, we can go through this perhaps a bit quicker. Hopefully I stopped drawing random marks here on the page. Okay, nope, there we go again. Alright, this time we got it. So next we'll have the fundamental for second position. We have our 2 ledger lines here. Actually 3 ledger lines, because we need pedal A natural. And then we have the octave, so we go to low A, then a fifth higher, E, and then a fourth higher, A. So we're just, up to this point, we're just working with the perfect intervals, octave, fifth, and fourth. So that gets you up to the first note of the dominant seventh chord that we have here. So A, up a major third, is C sharp. Make sure you put the accidentals in there on your test and that you understand this, that it's C sharp, not C natural, because it's a major third interval. So you cannot get C natural in second position. You can only get C sharp or D flat. Okay, next E natural. So we have the major triad here. Next is G natural. That's the seventh. So now we have the dominant 7 chord here. And then that leads up to back up to the tonic, the root. So that's a high A there. And when you get up in these ledger lines, if you're not familiar with these ledger lines, you just kind of have to know where the top of the staff is, and then you kind of have to work your way up. So this is A, third higher is C, third higher is E, third higher is G. So you kind of have to, that's kind of the part that gets tricky, is just knowing which letters are what. So, but if you look at it enough, you write it out yourself a few times, I don't think it should be a problem. So we've got A, C sharp, E, G, A, and then B. And you don't have to write the accidentals in. If there's no accidental, I'll assume it's natural. You have to write the sharps and the flats in, but if there's nothing needed, even if you write it next to this like this, we'll assume that this is B natural. And then the last one is high C sharp here. So those are the 10 partials for second position. And this is getting pretty high up in the trombone range. So this is these notes here will be college level or very advanced high school level students. Okay, so let's move on to third position. Do all the possible notes that we can get in third position. So we'll start with our ledger lines. Move it over a bit here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 gets us to A. So put an A here. But if I just leave it like that, then I'm assuming it's going to be an A natural. So you absolutely have to put the flat there for each and every one. If you then put this and leave it, I'm going to assume that that's A natural. So you have to put the flat there. Okay, next up is E flat. And you're going to see it's very similar to this, but if you just recopy this and then add a bunch of flats, you can get into trouble. Because if you put C flat in there, then that's wrong. So again, A flat. So now this is C natural. It's 1/2 step lower than here. C natural. It's in third position. And then see if I can try and keep it a bit consistent. Bring these ledger lines up a bit to where these other ones are. So E flat. G flat. Right, this was G natural, this is G flat, and it's the 7th of the A flat major chord. And then A flat here, I have to put the flat in again. And then put the next ledger line up for the B flat with a flat sign there, and then the high C natural there. Okay, so that's the 10 partials in third position. Next will be the 10 partials in fourth position. And at some point on a test, this is exactly what you're going to have to do. I'll have the different slide positions listed perhaps, and you'll be asked to write all of these notes on there. It's very important for you to have this understanding and be able to show that you know what all the possible notes in each position are. Obviously, there are many more possible notes in each position because the trombone's range is theoretically limitless. It'll go up as high as your embouchure possibly can withstand. Typically, the highest people will ever get is probably about an octave higher than this B flat here, right? So it'll get up to a triple B flat. There are, of course, people who go up higher than that. Bill Watrous, the jazz trombone player from our week 2 assessment, it was known for his extreme high playing, and he was playing triple high E flat. So this B flat and then another octave and a fourth above that. So that's pretty much the top that people have ever got to, but that's a jazz great, known for his high playing. You won't find music that's written too much higher than this, maybe up to a high F or something, or a high G or G flat, higher than where we are now. But that's advanced professional music we're talking about, so don't have to worry about that for you guys. All right, so let's go and do this fourth position. So we've got do the ledger lines here. Okay, so that gets us 3, gets us to A, but we need G, so we're gonna put the note down below that. So G, and an octave higher, G, fifth higher, D, and then the tonic again, G, fourth higher, B natural. Again, I don't have to write in the natural accidental, so I'll assume everything's natural unless otherwise marked. And then D, and then F. Getting a little more condensed here than it should be, so bring it back up. F, and then the root again. So we have the dominant chord, G, B, D, F, then back onto the root G here, and then A, and then next one up is high B natural. So that's the 10 partials for fourth position. Fifth position. Hopefully you guys can see all of this. So fifth position. And again, I'm going to kind of be scrunching these low ledger lines together just to make sure we have enough room. So basically we're going down to a G again. So 3 ledger lines, G, but with a flat sign, G, flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, F flat, high G flat, A. You notice I've kind of switched the way I've done this. Slightly. The format. Instead of writing these all out here, I've brought this back just to show the thirds kind of here. You can do it either way. You could write it this way with the ninth partial all the way out here and then back like that, or the way I'm doing it now. So G flat, B flat, D flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, and then third, high B flat. Okay, so visually you can see, starting when we get back after the perfect fourth, once we get up to the tonic here, you just have stacked thirds here. You just have to make sure you know what the accidentals are, if they're natural, flat, sharp, with one exception, two exceptions actually. So stacked thirds here except for the tonic here and then the third here. So whatever way works for you to kind of understand this. Okay, let me bring this down here a bit. So sixth position, and we're almost done. We've almost got it all. So again, I'm going to try and compress these ledger lines a bit. So that gets us to G. We need one more ledger line now to get down to pedal F, and then up an octave is going to be in that space. Let me one more try at that. Can make that a bit clearer. So we actually need to have space in here where we can write the low F. So why don't I go ahead and put that low F here, and then I'll put the ledger lines. It won't line up exactly with the previous ones, but it's okay. So 3 ledger lines gets us down to the G. We need one more to get us down to the F here. So we've got F, and then the octave F, and then up to C, and the fourth up to F, major third to A natural, and then a major third up to C, and then the seventh of the chord is E flat, dominant 7, and then F we can put right on that ledger line, then one more ledger line for the G natural, and then for the high A. I'd probably put it right there. That makes most sense. So we have this kind of stacked thirds here, and then the 2 thirds there. So again, visually you can decide however makes more sense to you to write. But as long as you have the right notes written down and the right accidentals, you will be fine. Good to go. Alright, last one. All the possible notes that we can play in 7th position up to the 10th partial. Okay. So, well, again, I'll go ahead and put my low E down just so I have enough space. So low E is 1 ledger line down, and one more ledger line gets us down to C, third down, right? So E down to C, then the next ledger line gets us down to A, next ledger line gets us down to F. Oh, that was a straight one. Look at how straight that line is. Alright. Boy, I wish I could do that all the time. So we're on F, and then E natural right there. So there we have the octave all set to go. Have to do the fifth, so B natural. Fourth up is E, and the major third is E to G sharp, and then B natural is the minor third. We have the major triad there, and then up to D, D natural for the dominant seventh, and then the tonic again, E natural, the major second, F sharp, and then finally the 10th partial for this position is back to G sharp. Okay, so those are all the possible notes up to the 10th partial. That if we have the trombone just in 7th position with our embouchure and with air, we can play all of these notes going up and down. Now, I want to point out a couple of things. So I'm going to get back the green marker here. And so we talked about that 7th partial. And I know it's kind of among all these blue notes here, it's kind of easy to lose track of that 7th partial. And we said with the A flat that the 7th partial naturally, without any adjustments, is flat. It's flatter than our equal tempered system. That's why we can't play it in first, A flat in first, because we can't bring it up to where it needs to be. We can't bring the slide in anymore. So let me quickly go through the 7th partial for the rest of these, and these 7th partial in particular need slide adjustments. So 7th partial for second position, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 7th partial note is this G natural right here. And so naturally, if we just leave it in standard second position, intonation pitch-wise, it's going to be flatter. It's going to sound flat to where we need it to be. So we need to bring the 7th partial. We need to bring the slide in to correct for the intonation issues. So this is going to actually be a sharp second position instead of just a regular second position. That G natural is going to be a sharp, so we can actually do that. We can bring it in enough to make it in tune. So it's still in second position, it's just a modified position. It's a sharp second, which I showed in the chromatic scale, second octave, in the other video for week 5. Okay. So the 7th partial for this is, so 1, 2, first partial, second, third partial, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th. Again, it's the G. Alright, so I'll put an asterisk right next to it just for clarity. So the G flat, instead of a regular third position, it's going to be a sharp third position. Okay, next is 4th position, so G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This F here, if we play it in 4th position, it has to be a sharp 4th position. For G flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have the F flat is the 7th partial, or F flat or E natural. So if we play that F flat or E natural in 5th position, we need to bring it up to a sharp 5th position. And then the 7th for the F is the E flat here. So we'll need to bring that a little bit higher. And then the D here, D natural here, is the 7th partial for this one. So we'll bring that in a bit. In general, the adjustments for the slide positions aren't as much for the longer the slide gets, that you don't have to make as much of an adjustment, because sharp second is really a completely different position from, or sharp second for over here is a completely different position than second position. Sharp third is completely different. Sharp 4 is very different. But as we get out here, yes, there's still adjustments. You have to bring it up a bit, but it's not. It doesn't tend to be as drastic of a change in general. And again, that can vary, I think, on horn to horn, person to person. But you might not see as drastic of slide changes through these as you would for these, even though they still are slightly, you pull the slide in slightly for all these notes in these positions. Now, typically you won't be playing these notes in those positions. Those tend to be alternate positions. And that's the other thing I would like to cover. So we look at these series, and these are the possible notes in each position, right? So let's take the 4th position here, for example. So the pedal G, this G, D, G, B natural, all are going to be played in 4th position, naturally. However, given the choice, we have this D that can be played in 4th position, but we also have that same D natural in 1st position. And in general, the shorter that you can play a note, the shorter the slide, the closer to 1st position you can play any given note, the better it's going to sound, because the less tubing that it has to go to. So for general purpose, if we have the time, we're going to move from 4th, if we're going from a B natural here to a D, and we're articulating or something, or even tongue slurring, we're going to go from that B natural to that D. If it's a fast slur, or going back and forth between the two notes, instead of having the slide going from 4 to 1, 4 to 1, we would likely, for a faster passage or a lip slur passage, we're going to keep it in 4th position and just make some intonation adjustments. For the D here. Yeah. Sorry, I was got mixed up here between the 7th partial and the others. So yeah, this D right here. If we're going from a B to a D, and we have time, it'll be better to play that D in 1st position, because the sound is generally going to be better. So there's many examples of that, and I'll just point out a few others. So for example, here in 6th position, you see we can play these notes. We can play C, we can play E flat, we can play F in 6th position. But if we look to 3rd position, we can also play those. We can play 3rd position. We could play the C natural. You can play the E flat in 3rd position, and we can play the F in 1st position. So the closer the slide is to your body, those are the primary positions. Those are the positions that are going to get the best sound. So here, in this one exercise, you can see you basically have the theory, the idea of all the notes that can be played in each position up to the 10th partial. You have all the possibilities for alternate slide positions. You understand the notes you can play in lip slur patterns. So this kind of exercise, although it can be kind of confusing and arduous to really get a handle on, it really can provide a lot for you. So again, a couple more examples. The F sharp, that's F sharp, right? Yeah, E, F sharp. Here you can play it in seventh, but I probably never would. If I can help it, I'm usually going to play F sharp in a sharp third position. So G flat and F sharp and a harmonic are the same notes. So you could play it G flat or an F sharp in seventh position, but I'm gonna play it in third position almost all the time. So again, closer to first position you can get is the better sound and more reliable intonation wise, most likely, that you're going to get. So that's basically it for the partials up to the 10th partial for each slide position. And with the valve, there's different notes, right? With the valve depressed, first position suddenly turns into this series right here. You can play that in first position, and then with the valve depressed for the F attachment, this becomes second position, and then all of a sudden you have E flat in third position, flat third position, D in flat fourth position, D flat in a flat fifth position, F in a flat sixth position, and that's it. And the C in a flat sixth position, which is really seventh position. So that is the last one, the C that you can get in with the trigger depressed in flat sixth position. In the the previous video with when I was going over the trigger, I mistakenly called where you put the slide for the low C, I mistakenly called it flat seventh position. That tends to be where it is, basically as far as you can reach out, but technically what you would call it is a flat sixth position. There is no possible way to play flat seventh position with the trigger depressed, because there's only sixth position possibilities with the extra tubing. So let me just mark that real quick, because I do want to clarify that. So with the trigger depressed, there are 6 positions. Alright, so in music, often they'll put a V for valve. So valve first position puts it into F. So we have the F overtone series, F, C, F, A, C, E flat, F, G, and A. Hey, I won't do that for all of them, but so, and then we have valve, and usually is a bit of a flat first position too. And then we have a flat second position as the next one, which brings us down to the E overtone series. And then we have valve flat third, which brings us to E flat. So that would be E flat, A flat, E flat, G, B flat, D flat, E flat, F, and G. And then valve flat 4. So valve flat 3 actually in real life actually ends up being right around 4th position. And valve flat 4 actually in real life ends up being 5th position with the valve depressed. And so that gets us to the D overtone series, the pedal D, and A, D, F sharp, A, C, D, and E and F sharp again. And then valve flat 5 in real life is 6th position with the valve depressed. It gives us the D flat or C sharp overtone series. And then valve flat 6, which is basically a flat 7th position, as far out as you can get in reality. Will get you the C overtone series: C, G, C, E, G, B flat, C, D, E. All right, so that kind of hopefully clarifies the trigger range and my mistake in calling the saying that you can get C in flat 7th. I was speaking in real terms instead of the theoretical terms here. So I hope that clarifies some of that. All right, hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.